Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. A unique place for artists in North St. Louis County is expanding what it offers. This spring, an organization called Paul Artspace will select one local artist for an Artist in Residence program in Germany. For more about the program and the organization, here is producer Evie Hemphill.
For nearly 5 years, Paul Artspace has provided artists with valuable time and space to pursue their craft and bring creative projects to fruition. The residency program is tucked away on a serene 6-acre property in Florissant. More than 70 people have taken advantage of it. Some of them come from other states across the U.S., and others from around the world. Still others are St. Louisans looking for a creative refuge closer to home. Mike Behle is the founder and director of Paul Artspace, and David Johnson is one of its board members. Both of them are artists in their own right, and they join me now. Mike and David, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Thanks, Evie. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Evie. It's great being here.
I'll start with you, Mike. What's been kind of your vision for Paul Artspace since you first started hosting artists in the summer of 2013?
So the point of Paul Artspace from the very beginning, and I think we're doing a great job of remaining true to that, has been to provide time and space. And time and space for artists, visual artists, writers, curators to come and be able to climb into their research and work through ideas and just really engage in their practice where everyday life can sometimes get in the way. So providing this time and space is a main agenda for us at Paul Artspace.
There's a lot of different residency programs around the country and the world from what I know. What would you say sets Paul Artspace apart?
Yeah, Dave?
I think it's part of the space itself. Being on, as we refer to, 5.6 acres of love is a perfect kind of getaway, which, there's plenty of residencies that are in, really pastoral landscapes as well. I think it's part of the community that people find, a lot of times I think we talk about St. Louis being kind of this flyover city, and once people kind of find it, they kind of get amazed by it. And most of our residents have found that to be true, that as soon as they get into St. Louis, they really find a community and individuals and a culture that they kind of find interesting and thriving and really feed off that energy.
Was that energy part of what drove you to create Paul Artspace, Mike?
So the idea of Paul Artspace is really something I've carried with me since my graduate school days, and it wasn't necessarily completely understood in my mind that it would be a residency. It just was more kind of free-formed and open, that it would be some kind of an artist collective. And as I'm a practicing artist and many people on the board and friends of Paul Artspace are also creatives in that sense, it has become kind of this artist collective where, as Dave was just speaking, this notion of community, I think that those of us that are involved with the programming and the direction Paul Artspace goes, we're all people that think about the importance of time and space, and we really are interested in providing that for our residents. And I think because we're engaged in our community, in our own practice, we also have opportunities for creating introductions and building network for the residents that come to Paul Artspace.
Now, I want to talk some more about the space itself a little later, but I also want to make sure we touch on this new Artist in Residence program that you recently announced in partnership with our sister city in Germany. Right. Tell me about that, David.
In Stuttgart. So this has kind of been a project we've been working on since early 2016. And Julia Wentz, who's a Stuttgart-based artist, contacted me about doing a postal exchange. And as the conversation went on and talking about this idea of sister cities, I kind of posed to Mike and the rest of the board of hosting these 3 German artists, Julia Wentz and Peter Frank and Christian Eckhoff, to come to St. Louis while I was hosting a photography conference, and have them come participate in the conference, come participate and organize an exhibition about the exchange. And from there, it kind of got the ball rolling because Julia is on a board for the Gay Dock in Stuttgart, which is an artist center in kind of just off the main center square. And the conversation got rolling, and so I invited them. And then this summer, she invited myself and another board member, Alina, to participate in the program. And then coming back, we had an exchange exhibition in City Hall of Stuttgart, in which I was able to go to and meet several politicians to find more kind of funding. We've come back and met with the Sister Cities organization here in town, and Suzanne Evans, who runs that, has been very generous and very supportive of our endeavors to get this exchange kind of lasting long term.
So how does it work for local artists who might be interested in this month-long opportunity? What do they need to do?
The call went out on the 1st of March, and we have applications that are due on April 1st, where the artist sends in a letter of how they plan to use their time, and we'll have a jury, Misa Jeffries from CAM, Terry Surrey from Umsel Gallery 210, and Triana Van Ryan from Floodplain Gallery will be jurying it. And whatever submission they select will get awarded a month-long stay in August at the Gay Dock in their exchange studio, and a $1,000 honorarium from the Sister Cities organization in St. Louis.
And you said you've been to Stuttgart?
Yes, I went. I was able to go this past August. And
what would you say you enjoyed most about that city?
Partly the just time to focus on work. Being an artist, teaching and running a freelance business, not a lot of time can focus towards just new projects. The studio opens into this really kind of beautiful courtyard, and then you're 3 tram stops from the city center, and there's a doner kebab shop right at the tram station, which is probably one of my favorite places to go to.
And as part of this exchange, am I understanding correctly that someone from Germany will also be coming to Paul Artspace that same month?
Not that same month, but we do have, that's part of the exchange. In fact, they're scheduled to come next fall.
In either September or October. We're working out the details.
Now, this won't be the first time that you've had international artists at Paul Artspace. Is that right, Mike?
That's
I think
correct.
I remember you saying that some of your first residents were from Ireland.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So our very first residents in the summer of 2013, Carl Giffney and Andreas Kindler van Nablock, 2 Irish artists that came and spent the summer with us. And I really feel like that jettisoned us into this direction where we kind of were on a radar with other international artists. They are both very established and connected in their networks throughout Europe, and in fact, they ran a space in Ireland called the Good Hatchery, which was an artist collective, and many artists had affiliated and worked through and came through that program. So that did sort of begin this interesting relationship that we had, and since then we've had several artists from all over Europe as well as Asia and other places throughout the world.
And where are things at now? Would you say that Paul Artspace continues to grow, and how so?
Right. So Paul Artspace does continue to grow. In addition to the Sister City Exchange with Stuttgart, we've developed a program that we refer to as a facilitator position at Paul Artspace. And that's an opportunity for someone that could apply to come in, and they would be on site, and they would have their own living space, studio space, and that is for 6 months to 12 months. That comes with a stipend. But they're there to kind of be on site, engage with the residents, kind of just be that person immediately on the ground for the organization. And so we're looking and reviewing applicants for that position. And we're looking forward to this year coming. You know, we have some good folks coming in this spring session, and we'll be excited to see what kind of applicants we get for the summer session.
Go ahead.
Well, we also can't forget about Paul's Pickles, our new fundraising and outreach initiative going into our second season. We've decided to, the board has created a pickle recipe, a spicy and normal dill that we sell at farmers markets, and this will be our second season going in the farmers market. We will have a new product developed by Mike, and it's a walnut ink. So
right.
Wow.
So the walnut ink is actually derived from some the black walnuts trees out on the grounds of Paul Artspace. We have quite a few of them, and through mowing the lawn out there, riding on a tractor and cutting grass and hitting those. It dawned on me one day that these could be more than just things that dull the blades on our lawnmower.
Kidding. Everyone who comes through Paul Artspace is asked to leave a document or something to kind of commemorate their time there and give back. How does that work, Mike? We
provide this time and space for our residents free of charge, and in trade for that, we ask that there is some kind of a give back. And that give back can take the form of them giving a physical document. That could be an object, some kind of an artwork. The writers have donated, writings and poetry and things of that nature. They can also give back to the community by coming in and doing workshops at UMSL, where I teach in the Department of Art and Design, giving lectures, public lectures. Terry Surrey, again, at Gallery 210, has always been tremendously supportive. So there is that idea of you come and you have time and space, and then there is a request that you give back in some way.
David, what prompted you to get involved as a board member?
Well, I'm not originally from St. Louis, and when I moved to St. Louis and kind of fell in love with the city and the culture and just being part of the experience of St. Louis, I've always thought that a residency would be a really interesting place to have here. Mike and I have been friends for a long time, and when he kind of brought up the idea of this residency, I think we went out for a beer, and I told Mike, I was like, anything that I can do, and he's like, well we need board members. And I said, of course. I just think that allowing people to see the things that we know about St. Louis is important, and sharing the things that we have to give and offer in this time and space is vastly important for many artists to find something new and find something to work on and work through.
Mike, you founded Paul Artspace on property that's been in your family for decades. What's it like to see it continue to grow and take shape?
Well, it is really interesting and very special for me, because I have this history with that property, and it's a very different kind of history, as a place that I grew up as a child, and so now it's like there's this new history that's been building and being written, and it's a history made up of friends and family and artists and creatives and thinkers and people working and people engaged and people that are that care about all sorts of subject matter, and the artists that come through there. If you were to look, for instance, at the 2017 review catalog, there's such a broad range of work represented, and that's something that I take a lot of pride in. Is that we're not a residency that's interested solely in the practice of photography or solely in the practice of printmaking, or we really are looking for work that is exciting, engaging, and it seems to be something we want to learn more about ourselves, and that partly drives like how it is that various individuals are selected to come. But you're right, Evie. For me, the idea of what it is now and how it functions now, it's always exciting to go out and meet the new residents. It's wonderful to check in on them, partway through their residency with us and see what kind of work is being made.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from residents about what they love about being there, whether they stay 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months?
Mm-hmm. Well, the place is in North County, as you mentioned earlier. It's in Florissant, and it's right off of Highway 67, which if you're driving down that part of Highway 67 or Lindbergh, it's very much kind of strip mall America. It feels that way, But once you turn off of Highway 67 and you start to wind your way back to the property, which is only probably a mile and a half off of Lindbergh, the layout of the property, the fact that it is surrounded by trees and it's almost 6 acres, or as my buddy Dave coined the phrase, 5.6 acres of love. But it provides folks with this place of solitude to really get back into their research. And so that's a lot of the feedback that we get, that the place gave them that. When we say time and space, it gave them that. And it also, through the connectivity that we have in our community, it gave them an opportunity to build and grow their network. And, sometimes that would translate into immediate events and things such as exhibitions, or maybe longer-term projects where the genesis for those just began with a conversation that they had based on an introduction they gained through Paul Artspace.
Well, as our time wraps up here today, David and Mike, I have one more question for both of you. What are you most excited about right now in the St. Louis art scene?
I believe there is recognition of St. Louis as a cultural hub and identity of its own. I think there's a lot of press that's going out in the world. James McNally, his articles about St. Louis and Art in America, and I know Projects Plus is sharing St. Louis artists at an art fair in New York coming up, and it just seems like there's a lot of St. Louis artists spreading out and getting into places that aren't just St. Louis and sharing the scene that we all know and love, and I think that's really exciting.
How about you, Mike?
Right, yeah, well, I'd echo a lot of what Dave just said. I think that there's also, from my perspective and over the last few years, seeing some of the institutions like the Pulitzer and the Contemporary Art Museum, finding ways to engage with the community and doing it through collaborations and through various programming. I think that's wonderful. I think that there is the grassroots organizations such as us, and then there's other places like Floodplain that Dave just mentioned that is in the same footprint as Fort Gondo, which was really quite an institution for our contemporary art community here. But I think really just all in all, it just continues to seem to be evolving and moving in a really exciting direction. And, as Dave said, I think St. Louis at once maybe thought of kind of a flyover place. There's so many great things and exciting things happening here. And part of that is because of the affordability. And, artists and creatives can find ways to take risk and to try and establish and create things that maybe other cities it would just be cost prohibitive in.
That's Mike Behle and David Johnson talking with producer Evie Hemphill about the growth of Paul Artspace. The Florissant-based organization is currently accepting applications for an exchange program in collaboration with St. Louis's sister city of Stuttgart, Germany. Archive versions of past St. Louis On the Air programs are available for download or podcast at stlpublicradio.org/STLonair. St. Louis On the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio 90.7 KWMU. Thank you for listening. I'm Don Marsh.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.